In the previous sessions, we have discussed about measure of central tendency, and we also know that the central tendency is telling us the value where the data is more concentrated. That is the aim of central tendency. But now we are going to take care of another measure of variability, which is known as dispersion. Because we know that when the data is to be presented, that there are three main features of the data is concentration, variability and symmetry. So concentration, where the data is, we have done it. Now how the data is variable and how is it dispersed, we are going to study by the measure of dispersion. Let's take a very simple example. Now it is a distance in kilometer between home and office of 7 employees of 3 offices. Office 1, office 2 and office 3. So there are 7 employees we have chosen randomly, and from there we have taken their distance, how much distance every day in kilometer they are covering from home to office. So total of that in office 1 is 105, 105, 105, and once we find out the average, it works out to be 15, 15, 15. So it means that the total distance and average distance travel by employees of the 3 offices are same. Total distance 105, average distance is 15. So both are same. But if data, you just see the data, there is a big variation. This data 1 is highly homogeneous, all values are same, and this data you can say more heterogeneous, and this is more heterogeneous. So 3 data you can see there is a difference between their homogeneity of the data. So first one is highly homogeneous, second is not much homogeneous, and third one is highly heterogeneous. So measure of central tendency is not in position to tell us about the homogeneity or heterogeneity of the data set. So in that case, to understand the spread of data, or we can say we have to refer as scattering of the data, we can do it with the help of dispersion. What is the dispersion? Dispersion is a measure of variation or lack of uniformity in the observation, that is data set or population, whatsoever it may be. It is telling us that how the observation is spread or scattered around the central value, around the center of the data. So spreading of the data is being measured by dispersion. So ideal measure of dispersion should follow the following properties. Number 1 is measure of dispersion should be simple to understand and easy to calculate. Number 2, measure of dispersion should be rigidly defined and must take care of all the observation. It should remain unaffected by extreme values. On measure of dispersion, mathematical operation should be possible and it should remain unaffected by sampling fluctuation. If all observations are same, that have the same value, then the measure of dispersion will be equal to 0. Whereas the highly homogeneous, nothing is there. So it is not spread at all, it is a straight line. Now we can measure the dispersion in 2 forms. One is absolute measure, second is relative measure. In absolute measure, they are dependent on the units of the variable or data under the consideration. Where in relative measure, it is independent of units. It is unit free, like ratios or percentages. They are unit free. So we can say for comparing two or more population or distribution, the relative measures are more relevant in comparison to absolute measure. Yes, absolute measure we are also calculating, and that is also telling us about the dispersion. But if more than one population is to be compared, the relative measure is more suitable. There are various measures of dispersions are absolute measure and relative measure. So in absolute measure, range, interquartile range, quartile deviation or semi-interquartile range. You remember that quartile we have done it in the median, standard deviation or variance, and mean deviation and Lorentz curve. And in relative measure, it is a coefficient of range, coefficient of quartile deviation, coefficient of variation or coefficient of variance, or coefficient of mean deviation. So these are the four types of relative measure we are going to discuss. What is the range? Range is the simplest form of dispersion. It is nothing but difference between two extreme observation. That is maximum observation minus minimum observation. And this is a absolute measure of the range. And the relative measure, which is also known as coefficient of range. So maximum observation minus minimum observation divided by maximum observation plus minimum observation multiplied by 100. That gives us coefficient of range, and here as well as the units are also, you can neutralize. Now just see the range for office 1, 15 minus 15 is 0. Range for office 2, highest value in this is 20 and lowest value is 10. So it is 10. For office 3, highest value is 29 and lowest value is 2. So range is 27. So that range is conveys the difference between these three data set. So now we can say that in office 3, the employees are coming with a distance from 2 km to 29 km. In office 2 from 10 km to 17 km. 20 km. And office 1 all are coming at the same distance, that is the 15 km. So that's how we can compare these three data set, which we are not able to do it on the basis of average. Now if data set in the form of frequency distribution, that is maybe discrete or continuous. In this case, first of all we have to convert discrete frequency distribution to continuous frequency distribution. We cannot calculate for discrete, it has to be calculated for continuous frequency distribution, and that we have already done it in our previous discussion, that how to convert discrete frequency distribution into continuous frequency distribution. Then range is difference between the upper limit of highest class and the lower limit of smallest class. Then Cauchy range. Now range is based on extreme value, but if we ignore that, we can find out Cauchy ranges also. First of all, the observation we arrange in ascending order, x1 less than equal to x2 less than equal to so on up to xn. So we can get so many Cauchy ranges. R1 xn minus 1 is x2 range is xn minus x1, and R1 Cauchy range x2 minus xn minus 1, xn minus 2 minus x3, and Ri is xn minus I minus xi plus 1. So again this is on the basis of two related observation, only two observation Cauchy range is considering. Range is also considering two values, Cauchy range is also considering only two observations. What are the properties? Range is a measure of dispersion which is defined rigidly and easy to calculate, very simple, and anybody can understand it. but it cannot satisfy the rest of the properties of measure of dispersion. Further, except Cauchy range, range cannot be calculated for frequency distribution having open-end class intervals. Range is useful to study mostly rates, market fluctuation, etc. And normally we are using for statistical quality control. The study which are related to statistical quality control, where it is useful. Otherwise ranges have no much more importance. That's why we are not going to much details of that in calculation of that. Now the fare of two airlines on given routes are given on different quarter. There are 4 quarters. So find out whose fare is more variable. Airline 1's first quarter 4,890, 5,050, 5,050 also. Third quarter, fourth quarter 4,700. And variable airlines 2, first quarter 5,025, second quarter 5,120, in third quarter 5,100, and fourth quarter 5,000 rupees. So these are the fare. So we want to say which airlines is a more you can say is continuous or giving the same type of fare, or where the fare is highly variable. So for airline 1 range is coming 350, and for airline 2 range is coming 120. But now we know that when we are comparing two set of data, then always we go by the value of coefficient of range. So coefficient of range for the first airlines works out to be 5050 minus 4,700 divided by 5,050 plus 4,700 works out to be 0.0358. And similarly for airlines 2, it works out to be 0.0118. So it means coefficient of airline 2 is smaller than coefficient of airline 1. So we can easily conclude that fare for airline 2 is more stable than fare for airline 1. So we can hope that stability in airline 2 fare is much better than airline 1. It is a benefit, it has a loss also. Benefit is, if airline the rate fares is fluctuating very highly, when the rates are very low, then you buy a ticket. But when you go in the market, when you go and buying the ticket, maybe airline 1 its fare is very high, but we know that airline 2 it may not be much fluctuation. Next, coming to quartile deviation. Now range is based only on 2 observations, and we know that quartile deviation is based on 50% of the observations. We know that data is divided 4 equal parts, Q1, Q2, Q3. These are the 3 walls which divides the data into 4 parts. That is 0 to Q1, Q1 to Q2, Q2 to Q3, and Q4 to final value, last value. So the absolute measure of quartile deviation is Q3 minus Q1 divided by 2, where Q1 and Q3 are first and third quartiles. And interquartile range is Q3 minus Q1. It covers 50% of the data, which is the middle of the data. But the interquartile range, the problem is it is not affected by extreme values. So interquartile range, upper half, lower half, 77 minus 64, that is 13, median is 71, Q1 is 64, Q3 is 77. So we can say interquartile range is 13. So whatsoever these extreme values are, has not much meaning into that. Similarly here, lower quartile, how we have calculated, Q1 is, Q3 is 77 plus 81 by 2, and median is this. So, and interquartile and median is, that will do after what is this sigma. So Q1 is equal to minus Q1 minus 1.5 into interquartile range, this value, and Q3 plus 1.5 into interquartile range. We will do it in the later part of our discussion. What is the meaning of this values 1.5? What is the value? Why I have shown you this photograph? So I think this 3 photograph is able to clear your mind. What do you mean by Q3 minus Q1 interquartile range? Here it is a percentile also. You use quartile, you use percentile. The things are same. Now the quartile deviation or semi-interquartile range. The quartile deviation is also known as semi-interquartile range. That is Q3 minus Q1 by 2. We have seen it. And relative measure of the quartile deviation is Q3 minus Q1 divided by Q3 plus Q1. So this is the coefficient of quartile deviation. So quartile deviation we already calculated, and coefficient of quartile deviation we can also calculate like using this formula. So we do this one example which simply cut and paste from internet. Coefficient of quartile deviation, that is a first example. From the following data compute interquartile range, quartile deviation and coefficient of quartile deviation. So first of all we have to arrange the data into ascending order, and capital N is number of observation are 11. So Q1 is 11 plus 1 4, that is size of third item, that is 7, and Q3 is 3 times 11 plus 1 by 4, that is 9th item, that is 9th item is 22, its value is 22. So interquartile range is Q3 minus Q1, 22 minus 7 is 15, and semi interquartile range or quartile deviation is Q3 minus Q2 by 2, 7.5, and coefficient of quartile deviation it works out to be 0.52 approximately. So this how we can calculate coefficient of quartile deviation and range, and quartile interquartile range. Next, take another example. Now the frequency distribution of speed data observed on different roads of the city is as follows. Previous example was ungrouped data. Now this is a group data, continuous frequency distribution. Discrete frequency distribution we cannot consider. We have to consider into continuous frequency distribution. So speed is given from 0 to 30, number of road 25, 30 to 40 15, 40 to 50 20, and 80 and above 20. So number of roads are 117 where we are given the speed. So we have to compute quartile deviation and its coefficient. So first of all we have to compute less than cumulative frequency. So less than cumulative frequency is 25, then 15 is added, become 40, then 20 is added, 60, 78, 88, 97 and 170. So once we computed less than cumulative frequency, and very easy to compute and coefficient of quartile deviation. So Q1 n by 4, 117 by 4, that is 29.25, and Q3 it is 87.75, and corresponding cumulative frequency for Q1 30 to 40 and 60 to 70, just see 30 to 40 and 60 to 70, 88 and 40. So quartile, so coefficient cumulative frequency for Q1 in the range of 30 to 40, that is 40. So what is the value of we have to take it, just think what is the value is coming, 29.25. So 29.25 is which one is value greater than this? 29.25, 40 is greater than that. So which value we have to consider? 25. So our range is 30 to 40, that frequency is observed is 30 to 40. So the less than cumulative frequency is more than that our calculated value. So very simple. So Q1 is 30 plus 10 by 15, 29.25 minus 25. And similarly for cumulative frequency for Q3 is 60 to 70, and less than that value is 78. We have done it already. So you can calculate Q1 and Q3. So similarly quartile deviation is given by Q3 minus Q1, that is 18.46, and coefficient of quartile deviation Q3 minus Q1 divided by Q3 plus Q1 works out to be 0.359. So that's how we can calculate the coefficient of quartile deviation for group frequency distribution. Next is mean deviation or average deviation. Now it is clear from range and quartile deviation, both of them is not considering all the observation. That is a major issue. So those measures are not in position to tell us the composition of data, or not in position to study the distance between center values with the rest of the observation, because they are not considering all the observations. How can they comment on that? So this type of problem we can overcome by using the another measure of dispersion known as mean deviation or average deviation, and mean deviation denoted by MD. Now the average deviation gives the average amount of scatterness of values around the averages, ignoring the sign of deviation. So the scatterness around the central value it is giving us. So the average is mean, it is called mean deviation. If average is median, it is called median deviation, and if it is mode, then it is called mode deviation. So these are the formulas. So the absolute measure of average deviation is for observation x1, x2, that is for ungrouped data, and for frequency distribution the formulas are given. The average, the mean deviation 1 by n, xi is by n, xi minus a is in any arbitrary value a. Similarly mean deviation about mean, x bar. Mean deviation about median, xi minus median, and mean deviation about mode, xi minus mo. And similarly for any arbitrary value for frequency distribution, 1 by capital N, first of all that will change, and then fi xi minus a bar. This is, we can say, take the bar absolute values. The only issue is by taking these absolute values we are ignoring the negative values. So we are making them positive also. So similarly for median, mode, and etc. Just see, that is median deviation and mode deviations. So here we are ignoring the signage. So taking the modulus of the value, so it is the modulus of the value, so negative sign is being removed, negative sign is finished. So all are being summed up. So these are the absolute measure of average deviation. And similarly relative measure of mean deviation, which is known as coefficient of mean deviation. If it is around mean, if we calculate it around mean, then mean deviation divided by mean, and if it is about median, then mean deviation divided by median, because this mean deviation we have calculated around the median, not the mean. So this is a difference. We know that what is the median. This is a formula about the median. So similarly one can calculate mode deviation also, and the same formula in place of mean you use the mode, so it become coefficient of mean deviation around mode, or mode deviation straightforward. Now Find the mean deviation about the mean for the following data: 6, 7, 10, 12, 13, 14, 8, 10, 12. So we have to find the mean deviation about mean. So first of all, we have to calculate the mean of the data. So mean of the data works out to be summation of all the observation divided by number of observation, 8. 72 by 8 is 9. So x bar is 9. So then xi is this much. Then xi minus x bar, 6 minus 9 minus 3, 7 minus 9 minus 2, 10 minus 9 1, then 3, 4 minus 5 minus 1 and 3. Then we take modulus of this. So minus 3 converted to 3, minus 2 converted to 2, 1 is 1, 3 is 3, 4 is 4, minus 5 converted to 5, minus 1 converted to 1 and 3 is 3. So sum of this modulus value of this works out to be 22. So mean deviation about mean is 22 by 8, works out to be 2.75. Now the daily earnings of the workers are given. Calculate the mean deviation. Again the same formula we can use. Daily earning and number of workers. Here frequency distribution is given. So first of all we calculate the midpoint. Then we have the frequencies are there. So first is xi fi. That is midpoint multiplied by frequencies. 525, 810, 1100, 650, 375 and 680. It works out to be 4140. Then we take absolute values, that is around the mean. The mean we have taken 4140 divided by 76 is equal to 54.47. So take the absolute value x minus, sorry, it is xi, it should be xi minus 54.47, so 19.47, 19.47.53, 10.53 and like this. And then we multiply fi into xi minus x bar, the total works out to be 925.3. So mean deviation about mean is 925.3 divided by 76 is equal to 12.175 and coefficient of mean deviation is 12.175 divided by x bar, 54.47. It works out to be 0.2235. So we are done for ungrouped data and we are done also exercise for frequency distribution type of a data. So we can say the mean deviation usually satisfies the properties of measure of dispersion that we just discussed in the beginning. What are the properties of dispersion? But with the exception that is ignoring the sign of deviation. This is lacuna. So whatsoever deviation is there, positive or negative, we are all making them positive. So it is not so good for further mathematical operation. Similarly, it cannot be used for open-end class frequency distribution. The mean deviation is good for studying the wealth and in business forecasting. And mean deviation is minimum if it is calculated around median. Naturally, median is the central most value, so it will be minimum. Next come to root mean square deviation or standard deviation. So standard deviation is one of the best and most powerful methods to measure the variability in the data set. Denoted by sigma. It takes care of all the shortcomings of previous measure, mean deviation etc. Whatsoever range, interquartile range etc. It will take care of that. It is based on all observation and sign of the deviation is also not ignored. That is a beautiful part. No sign is being ignored. Further, sampling fluctuation has a little effect on it. At same time, the extreme value also has a less effect as compared to other methods of measure of dispersion. That's why we say it is a very good method. So whenever the standard deviation, we are calculating around arithmetic mean, and it is known as standard deviation. But when it is calculated for any arbitrary value a, then is calculated for any arbitrary value a, then is denoted by s, small s. Mind it, small s. So it is known as root mean square deviation. Now the absolute measure of standard deviation for random observation formula is x1, x2, xn is sum of I is going from 1 to n, xi minus x bar square and under root of that sigma. So where x bar is arithmetic mean we know, and for frequency distribution in place of small n it will become capital N. The capital N is sum of these frequencies. Capital N is sum of frequencies. So xi's are n observation. So in case of group frequency distribution, xi's are the midpoints of the class interval and fi's are corresponding frequencies. So it is always calculated around arithmetic mean, and sigma is always be less than equal to range. Now coming to the root mean square deviation, that is when we are calculating around any arbitrary value a, then standard deviation is called root mean square deviation. Formula is same, where xi's are n observation or xi's are the midpoints and class fi's are corresponding frequencies and capital N is sum of frequencies. Formula is same, only x bar is being removed by a, and s square is called mean square deviation. So only under root is being removed and square has come. Square is already there, but under root which we are computing it, we have removed that. So we square this value of s. So xi are again n observation. Formula same, only we calculated on these values. Application of standard deviation. It is used to generate standardized score or Z score. The standardized score are individual values expressed in units of standard deviation from the mean. Next is the variation. We have done s square. So what is the sigma square? So sigma square is nothing but known as variance. The square of standard deviation is known as variance. So it shows how far each number in data set from its mean. The zero variance means all data values are same. It is given by sigma square is equal to 1 by capital N, sum I is going to 1 to n fi xi minus x bar square. So ni is sum of frequency, we all know. So what is the relation between sigma square and s square, root mean square deviation? Mean square deviation and variance is the mean square deviation and variance is related by s square is equal to sigma square plus x bar minus a whole square. So it implies that s square is minimum when deviation is calculated around arithmetic mean. Naturally, in that case, mean square deviation will be equal to variance. No doubt about that. Now, what are the formulas for ungrouped data? For ungrouped data, population variance is x square by sum of I xi square by n minus sum of xi square by n, and for population standard deviation we do only under root total. And for sample data it is s square. Just see the formula change, 1 minus n minus 1, 1 into n minus 1. Why it is n minus 1? That is we are not going to discuss today. We will discuss it separately. Why it is 1 into n minus 1. And for group data, we have discussed this one, yeah, for ungroup data and for group data. Actually, for ungroup data, this is the error. This is small n. It should be small n. It has to be small n, not be capital N for population data, for ungroup data. Because for group data, it is capital N. When frequencies are there, it is capital N. Because I have cut and paste from the internet this formula. So sometimes that in the internet itself the error may be there. Because it's not easy for me to type this formula to present in this way. Yes, I can write it on a blackboard, but not on these sheets, on this software. So population standard deviation, it is capital N, and sample data again 1 minus n minus 1 and 1 of n minus 1. So previous one, sorry, it has to be again capital N. It is error. It should be capital N. Actually, it is capital N itself. N minus 1 doesn't make any difference. It has to be capital N. So if xi or fi are large values, then still the calculation are very tedious. So in that case, we can change the scale and origin of the distribution, because variance is independent of scale and origin. How can we change it? That is, from the middlemost value xi, we subtract it from any suitable arbitrary value and divide by the magnitude of the class interval. That is a di. Di is xi minus a divided by h. So sigma square is h square 1 by n, so I is going 1 to n, fi di square minus 1 by n capital N, I is going 1 to small n, fi di the whole square. So this is, we have changed the scale and also the origin of the data by this transformation. And now our calculation become very simple, very easy. So what are the advantages and disadvantages of standard deviation? Advantage, it is rigidly defined. It is based on all observation. It does not ignore the algebraic sign of deviation. It is capable of further mathematical treatment. It is not much affected by sampling fluctuation. And disadvantages, it cannot be used for qualitative data. And further, it is usually affected due to extreme deviations. So these are the advantages and disadvantages of standard deviation. Now calculate the standard deviation for the data. We have just seen the formula, now we do the practical. So the mean is 120 plus 111 plus 120.29 divided by 6 works out to be 120.59. So it is a distance between two localities. We are calculating sigma for that, standard deviation for that value. So xi minus x bar, that xi minus 120.59 works out to be this. And once we take square of all these values, so sum of the square of this value works out to be 0.7293. So sigma square, there is a variance, 1 by n, sum of I is going from xi minus x bar square is equal to 0.7293 by 6, that is 0.12155. But sigma, standard deviation, is the under root of this value, and that we can calculate because it is a decimal point. So we have to take anti-log, take the log of this and take the anti-log of this, and value which works out to be 0.3483. So that's how we can calculate the standard deviation. Let's take another example, group frequency distribution. Now here we are going to calculate variance. Once the variance is calculated, standard deviation you can calculate very easily. So it is the income distribution, monthly income distribution, number of households are having it. So variance is again midpoints of this class intervals, 50, 150, 250, 350, 450, and frequencies 20, 18, 15, 16 and 8, and deviation xi minus 250 divided by 100 minus 2 minus 1 0 1 2 and 0. then Fi and Di, that is frequency multiplied by this deviation, minus 40, minus 18, 0, and sum is minus 26. Then we are computing Di square, 41014, and then Fi Di square 146. So the mean is given by A plus H. Fi Di we already get it. Mean is 250 minus 33.76 is works out to be 216.24. That is the mean which we are able to calculate. But here we are taking some arbitrary value. We are calculating on the basis of arbitrary value. So sigma square is H square, sum of Fi Di square by capital N, sum of Fi Di by capital N is square. So 100 square, 146 by 77 minus 26 by 7, 70 square. So it works out to be 17820.1, and standard deviation is 133.49. Variance is 17,820, and standard deviation is 133.49, and the mean is that we calculated 216.24. So what is the application of standard deviation? See, it is a very powerful tool to study the spectrum of data set, that is location of values in relation to arithmetic mean. According to Russian mathematician Professor P.L. Shevtsov, it shows that whatsoever the type or shape of frequency distribution curve is, 68% of the observation fall in the range of x bar plus minus sigma, 95% of the observation fall in the range of x bar plus minus 2 sigma, and 99% of the observation falls in the range of x bar plus minus 3 sigma. And this phenomena is very useful for testing of statistical hypothesis. That will now become the basis of your advanced statistics. How to test the statistical hypothesis. So there this standard deviation going to play a very big role. Now calculate the proportional factor in which wages per hour in the range of x bar plus minus sigma for falling data. So wages are given and number of factories are given. So we have to simply calculate what? Standard deviation, and we have to also calculate the mean of that. So midpoints, that is 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, and frequencies 15, 90, 218, 45 and 10. So deviation is xi minus 7 by 2, that is minus 2, minus 1, 0, 1, 2. So total is 0. So Fi Di minus 30, minus 90, 0, 45 and 20. Total is minus 50, and Fi Di square, this we are going to use for standard deviation, 60, 90, 0, 45 and 40, that works out to be 235. So that's how we can calculate these values. So the mean is given is equal to 6.71, and standard deviation using the formula, it works out to be 1.46. So the range of x bar plus 6 is equal to 6 plus 7, 1 plus minus. Here it should be plus minus sign. 1.46. That is in the range of 8.17 to 5.25. So that is, you can say, just a Shevtsov formula. 68% of the observation are fall under the wage rate of 5.25 to 8.17 rupees. 68% of the population, they are getting, 68% of the workers are getting that much income. So that's how we can calculate these values. So we just discussed the dispersion, but the major use of dispersion will come when we discuss the testing of hypothesis. There it will be very highly useful. a very important concept. So we have done the central tendency, we have done the dispersion. In the next discussion, we are going to discuss about the you can say variability, that is skewness and kurtosis. So scatterness and center values close today, and variability in the form of skewness and kurtosis follow in the next sessions. Okay, thank you very much. Thanks a lot listening to me.